Hey everyone, how's it going? Cloud here, and welcome to my guide on a Banshee Slayer assignment. In this guide we'll be going through the following: the requirements in order to kill them, which Slayer Masters assign them as a task, best location to do the task, best strategy using their weaknesses, recommended equipment from lowest to highest, tips and tricks, and of course the key drops from them. Now you can choose to watch a certain part of this guide if you wish, or just click the play all option. Make sure you have annotations turned on. So, to start this guide off, we'll be going through the requirements in order to fight these. So, to be given Banshees as a Slayer assignment, you must have a minimum level of level 15 Slayer, otherwise you will not get them as a task. However, a minimal combat level is required, as they are not very strong, or the weaker forms of them anyway, as I'll be talking about the two different sorts. Now, there's actually two different types of Banshees you can fight: the Standard Banshees or the Mighty Banshees. The Mighty Banshees have a few other requirements which I'll mention in a moment, but now on to some enemy information. So the normal Banshees have a combat level of 37, where the mighty ones have a combat level of 91. The low level have 1350 life points, and the mighties have 3250 life points. Both use magic based attacks, and the max hit, the lower level ones are 108 and the higher level ones are 208 plus. Now you do need a piece of equipment in order to fight these, which are earmuffs. Now basically the Banshee's ability is they can use their scream to lower your stats, and unless you're wearing earmuffs, masked earmuffs or a Slayer helmet, your stats will be severely reduced by them, making them pretty impossible to kill. Earmuffs can be purchased from any Slayer Master just by trading them. Masked earmuffs and Slayer helmets are made after you've completed the Smoking Kills quest, and that is the requirement as well to fight the Mighty Banshees, so you will not be able to fight the higher level ones unless you've done that quest. And I recommend level 10 range and defense as a minimum to fight the lower level ones, and obviously you're going to need a bit higher, probably around level 30, to fight the higher level ones. But that's it for the requirements. Now on to who assigns them as a task. So the lowest Slayer Master to assign Banshees as a task is Churail or Spira. There are no requirements to use this Slayer Master. They can be found in Tavali, just being displayed on the marker there. I recommend having level 20 combat before you start asking for regular Slayer assignments, just to speed up you completing them, and they both assign anywhere between 15 to 50 Banshees. The next highest Slayer Master who assign them is Mashna, or Maskna, I don't know how you pronounce his name. You'll find him in Canifis, not far from where the Canifis Lodestone is, which is pretty handy. You must have completed the Priest in Peril quest in order to access this area. I recommend having level 40 combat before asking for frequent Slayer tasks from him, and he assigns 40 to 85 Banshees. The next Slayer Master is Sheldar. You can find her in the City of Zenaris, which requires the Lost City of Zenaris quest to be completed. I recommend having between 120 to 130 combat due to the amount that she'll assign you, and she can assign anywhere between 110 to 170 Banshees. And the only other Slayer Master Asylum, the highest level one, is Simona. She can be found in Polnaviak, not far from where the player-owned house is. You must have completed Smoking Kills quest in order to use her as a Slayer Master, and that is also the other requirement to fight the Mighty Banshees in the dungeon. I recommend 120 to 130 combat before asking her for frequent tasks, and she assigns 120 to 185 Banshees per task. Like I said, the recommended combat level is only a recommendation, it's not actually a requirement. However, I do always say you want to go with a slightly higher combat level than what they ask, just to make it easier from the amount of monsters you will be assigned. But that's it for which Slayer Masters assign them. Now on to best location to complete the task. So there are only actually 2 locations to fight the Banshees. The lower level Banshees we'll go through now. So we're on the map there, you can see we are just near the Lodestone, not far from where one of the Slayer Masters is, and the Banshees can be found in the southeast corner of Slayer Tower on the ground floor. So we're going to head in that direction now. It's a pretty quick walk from the Lodestone, which makes doing trips for these pretty easy. Once you get to the southeast corner, there's quite a few Banshees scattered around. Some are divided into different rooms, so you will need to sort of move around a little bit, but they are pretty much in close proximity of each other, making them pretty easy to kill. Even if there's a couple of other players here as well, generally they split into the different rooms, so you'll be able to have one room to yourself, kinda. As for the other location, and these are obviously to fight the mighty Banshees, now they are located in the Polnaviac Slayer dungeon. If you buy a Polnaviac teleport scroll, you pretty much teleport right outside the dungeon entrance, or as I said earlier, there's a player owned house portal nearby. If your house is set in Polnaviac, you can simply teleport there. All you need to do is climb down into the dungeon. Now, what you need to go into this dungeon first off is a face mask to prevent from the smoke, but obviously Banshees use their high screech attack, which requires the earmuffs, so that is why for this dungeon you need either the masked earmuffs or the Slayer helmet to even fight them. And again, as I mentioned, you must have completed Smoking Kills quest in order to be able to make those items and to come down here in the first place. But actually, it's a very ideal location down here, as you can see, there are loads and loads of Banshees all scattered around, and they're not exactly divided up from each other either, so it makes killing them pretty easy. Obviously, their combat level is a lot higher than what the lower level Banshees are, but you require a high combat level to even complete Smoking Kills, so you shouldn't have much problem with that at all, really. But that is it for the location. Now on to best strategy using their weaknesses. So, the Banshees are weak against ranged, being as they attack with magic. However, there is a specific range style you need to use for each one. So, if you're fighting normal Banshees, which are the lower level ones, they are weak to arrows. So you're going to want to be using bow and arrows. However, if you fight the mighty Banshees, they are weak to bolts. So you're going to want to use crossbow and bolts. So that's the only difference. However, both of them come under the range category anyway. So, obviously I've mentioned two-handed or dual-wielding will be the best approach to kill the Banshees. Obviously that bit mostly applies to the crossbowing side of it. So if you're using bolts, I recommend dual-wielding crossbows just to increase your ranged damage output. Obviously, if you're fighting with arrows, the bows are already two-handed, but the difference is you've got the standard bows and the shield bows. The shield bows offer you like defensive capabilities, but to be honest, against the low-level Banshees, you don't really need that much defense for them if you're using the earmuffs, so you can just stick to a normal sort of bow to increase your range output. And again, as I mentioned, you want at least sort of like 10 range and defense to fight the lower ones, and if you're fighting the mighty Banshees, then you're going to want sort of 30-40 range and defense just to obviously do some decent damage on them and complete the task quickly. But that is it for the strategies. Now on to recommended equipment from lowest to highest. So, as for recommended equipment, this is obviously recommendations, you can stick to however you like. One thing I will know, obviously in the pictures I'm going to be displaying, I am showing using crossbows. However, if you're obviously fighting the lower level Banshees, then you obviously want their bow equivalent rather than crossbow. So obviously, regarding the equipment, the best sort of ranged weapon will depend on how much damage you're going to do, and obviously the best ranged armour you can wear will depend on how much defense you'll have from the Banshee's magic abilities. So starting from the bottom, you'll just have leather or hard leather armor, and obviously the relevant style you want to use in terms of bow or crossbow would be either sort of like an oak bow or an iron crossbow. Then obviously as you start leveling up into the higher tiers, you've got studded leather armor, and you can go for steel crossbows or willow bows, and obviously the bolts and ammo obviously will level up with you as well. well, so from the different tiers, bronze, iron, steel, mithril, you get the idea there. Obviously as you start getting into the higher range categories, you'll start to be able to use dragonhide armor, which does offer good magic resistance, so you have pretty much an easy job against them when you get into this sort of category. And again, you can start going into the higher tier weapons such as adamant and rune, or the bow equivalent, which would be maple yew magic. And obviously when you get into the really high level equipment, and this will only really apply to if you're fighting the mighty banshees, you'll start getting like the armadillo armor, armadillo crossbows, that kind of thing as well. Obviously other equipment that I do mention using as well, obviously you want to use the most suited gloves relevant to your armor. So if you're using, for example, black dragonhide armor, you want to go with like black dragonhide van braces. Amulet of Glory will be best suited to have, as they don't cost that much even for low level players. Obviously Amulet of Fury is more ideal, but obviously you're looking at a bit more expense there. As for like the cape slot, if you're able to use the accumulator, which you can receive from request animal magnetism, that will help increase your range damage output, and also helps you pick up your bolt or arrows that you're using. If not, you can obviously use certain capes like obsidian capes, but ideally skill capes will give you more of a critical bonus. But like I said, those are all recommendations really. All I would say is whatever is the best armor and ranged weapon you can use at your level, go for that, as that will offer you more damage output and more defense against their attacks, lessening the amount of supplies you'll need and making your tasks much more profitable and effective to complete. For the item side of things, obviously any potions you could bring will always help out, if that will boost your levels up, especially if you're fighting the mighty banshees and you're sort of lowish level. Prayer potions if you feel you're going to need prayer, and obviously the most suited foods to your constitution level as well. So if you check your constitution level, you want to get food based around that, as that will then benefit the amount of life points you get from each piece of that food. But that is it for recommended equipment. Now onto tips and tricks. Now, because Banshees are pretty easy enemies to defeat anyway, I don't have as many tips and tricks to offer in this section as I normally would. However, there are a few things I'd suggest just to sort of make your task for these a bit more effective. So first of all, we'll talk about abilities. So obviously the higher adrenaline abilities are going to what makes you kill these pretty quick. Now as for range, there's sort of two abilities that stand out. The first two require 50% adrenaline, and I cannot actually remember the names of them. 101 is called Rapid Fire. Basically the icon looks like 2 arrows drawn, or 3 arrows drawn. Basically that allows you to do continuous shots at the banshees, and that will pretty much dispose of them straight away. The other ability I suggest is one that requires 100% adrenaline, but it will not take you long to build it up. And again, I cannot remember the exact name, but on the screen you'll see that one of the abilities I've got set has got the face of like a goblin or a monster, whatever you want to call it, and basically you'll fire a shot that does repeatable damage on them. Pretty much, if you land that ability on one of the banshees, you can pretty much start fighting another one, as that one will be guaranteed to be killed by that ability once it's finished doing the damage. So that sort of thing is what you want to aim for. Just keep using your standard abilities till you can use your 50% and 100%, and that will start dealing some pretty quick damage on them. The other thing I suggest with the Banshees, especially in Slayer Tower, is they're quite kind of sort of spread apart from each other, and this is regarding collecting your drops and that. So what I would do, I would literally sort of, because they're pretty quick to kill, I would kill sort of 6 or 7 Banshees all sort of together, because obviously that will stop your adrenaline going down and allow you to use some of the higher tiered abilities that I mentioned. Once you've killed like 6 or 7 Banshees, then you can go around and collect your drops after that, because obviously when you use 100% adrenaline ability, that will knock it right back down to 0%, so that is kind of the ideal time to collect your drops, as you've got no worry then of the adrenaline going down any further, because it can't, it's at 0%. So that's something I'd suggest, and that will just make sort of collecting the loot from these better, and obviously speeding up the amount of time. Is obviously if you're trying to pick up the drop from each Banshee, for every one you kill, you're going to let your adrenaline fall down, which will obviously not allow you to use as many of the higher abilities as it would do if you're doing the method on screen, which is just constantly keep killing 6 or 7 of them until you've then got that 100% ability. Use that to finish off whatever one you're fighting and then collect your drops. Another tip and trick I have, and this is regarding sort of equipment side of it, is there is an amulet you can get which is called the Salve Amulet, and what it does, it allows extra damage output against ghosts, skeletons, undead, that kind of thing. Now I know there's a form of amulet you can get which enchants its abilities, so I think the Salve Amulet standard gives you 10% extra damage output on those obviously specified monsters, and Banshees come under that category, and I think if you get it enchanted it does 15 or 20%, something along those lines. Now I'm not sure if that overpasses the Amulet of Fury's bonuses, or if the Amulet of Fury is more beneficial than the Salve Amulet, but obviously if you're a low level player and you've done the quest, I think it's Haunted Mine to get the Salve Amulet, you'll probably find it's better to use that rather than a Glory or something like that. And the last tip and trick I have is basically based around a bit of extra experience you can get. So the Banshees drop quite a variety of herbs from low level to high level ones. I suggest collecting these anyway because they'll sell well on the Grand Exchange, but what you could do, especially with the lower level herbs and that, is you can clean the herbs to get a bit of extra herb lore experience there, as it doesn't take long, and you can pretty much sell them for near enough the same price as the grimy version. They do also drop other ingredients which might enable you to use those herbs for potions and things like that, which might save you some costs a bit further down the line. And the other thing you can do is they do drop quite a lot of items that can be low or high level alchemies, just to save you filling up your inventory space. If you've completed the I think it's the medium tasks on the Lumbridge achievement diary, you'll get a Explorer's Ring free, which gives you so many charges a day to use low or high level alchemy. So if you don't have the level required to actually use those spells, you could just use the ring, and again that'll save you costs for runes as well, having to use that spell. And the final tip and trick I have, but this will depend on the value of the drops you're getting, is there is an item you can purchase called Magic Notepaper, and it basically allows you to turn unnoted items into noted, making it easier to collect loot in your backpack. Now I believe the Magic Notepaper can be bought from the Grand Exchange at about sort of 1300, 1500 coins each. Now if you're getting high level herb drops that are worth sort of 3, 4, 5,000 coins, to save you doing multiple trips to the bank, you can turn them into noted versions, just to be able to carry more and make your task more profitable. But obviously that will depend on the cost of the herbs. If you're going to use the Magic Notepaper on herbs that are worth only 500 coins, you're going to actually be making a loss there, so just be a little bit careful. You can right click and examine the items and it will tell you the current GE market price, so you can use that as a little reference before you turn them into noted format. But that is everything for tips and tricks. Now onto the key drops and rewards from them. So, you will earn 15.5 Slayer XP for the normal Banshees, or 89.4 XP for the Mighty Banshees, so there's quite a big drop there, not drop, sorry, an increase, so obviously if you can go for the Mighty ones, I definitely recommend that. A task of 50 normal Banshees will get you 775 Slayer experience, where the Mighties will get you 4,470 Slayer experience, so they're pretty good in terms of XP. Like I said, I'd definitely go for the Mighties if you have the requirements to fight them and you can handle them. I've just noted a few drops to look out for. So both of them drop Mystic Gloves, which are worth a bit on the GE. Also they drop a variety of staffs, arrows and shields which you can collect, and you could always high alchemy them just to save you some backpack space if you wish. They will drop plenty of potion items, herbs and herb lore ingredients, so as I mentioned in the tips and tricks, you can collect them to sell, and you can actually clean some of the herbs as well for a bit of a herb lore experience there. And just some other drops to look out for, they drop a variety of seeds and runes, so they're always worth collecting. Ancient effigies are dropped by them, and they also drop clue and champion scrolls. So clue scrolls, I think the lower level ones drop easy and the high level ones drop medium, so there's a bit of a difference there, and both of them can drop a champion scroll which enables you to fight the Banshee champion. Also, both of the Banshees have access to the rare drop table. Most of the rare drop table is worth good money, and with a Ring of Wealth, the chance of it is getting increased, and the highest reward is roughly sort of 25 mil if you're really lucky, because you can sometimes get a double drop from the rare drop table. So yeah, we're coming up to the end of my guide on the Banshees now. Thank you for watching, everyone. Like I said, I've tried to cover pretty much everything around the Banshees. There's not really a lot to talk about them, to be honest. All the things I mentioned are kind of sort of like extras you can do just to speed up the completion of the Slayer assignments and obviously make your task more profitable. And being a player who achieved 99 Slayer as their first ever level, I know what it's like trying to get through all the XP and that. So any help I can give you guys is a bonus for me. But yeah, like I said, I have worked hard on this guide, so please don't forget to like, comment, favourite, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you for watching, everyone, and happy slaying.